Yo, it's been what, 5 months? You're now hearing why it's been so long. I was doing my stuff last night, working and doing my thing, and YouTube. It's like, look at this over here, and I look, and it's an interview on Coast to Coast AM with someone named Mr. Sims. I keep forgetting his first name because, as y'all know, I'm terrible with first names. So I'm looking at his website right now because I want to get it right. The Alien Hunter. You know, he's got the TV show right now, Daryl Sims. Um, and it was an interesting interview with him. He gave some really good information, which was refreshing considering a lot of people these days want to spend the entire interview discussing esoteric oneness with the all-being and how everybody's too left-brained. And I'm looking at his picture right now, and he looks so familiar. It's driving me crazy. On his website, which is alienhunter.org, I found your obligatory alien abduction survey. Woo! And I might as well just take it like I took Melinda Leslie's. Why not? Mostly because, just like Melinda Leslie's, it's like, really? Okay. Do you think you may have experienced alien contact? Okay. So number one is, in your recall of the experience, can you imagine the details of the alleged alien's image? Specifically, can you describe its feet or the inside of the mouth? No. I can't. Two, if you answered yes to question one, no. So that kicked me out of two. But only if you answered yes am I kicked out of two, because were you able to touch it? If so, can you describe the feeling of its skin? Or if the alleged being was wearing clothing? I actually can remember that they were wearing clothing. So, but I can't answer number two because I wasn't able to answer number one, specifically about the feet and the inside of a mouth. Three, do you recall how the alleged aliens communicated with you and with each other? The alleged aliens in the two experiences, not counting childhood, incidentally, that I can actually remember, that I actually the next day was like, wow, that happened. Yeah, one communicated with like telepathic bells in my head, which, knowing more than I know now, at the time it was like I was getting talked to telepathically, but now I know it might have just been my brain translating a signal from a certain sound to induce the training underlying programming. So maybe I was getting talked to telepathically by bells. I had the very first researcher that actually talked to me longer than 2 seconds, first one I ever talked to at all, seemed to confirm that that's one way of communicating, but she seems to be light sauce compared to what I found since. And the second one, he sat in my room in a chair, and I did all the talking. So, four, if you answered yes to question three, so I can't answer four now, did you observe them working as a team and exhibiting trust between each other? Or did they function as individuals? Well, it's been individual stuff. I mean, there's the childhood thing would have been a team, but that's messed up. Do you recall a sense of their dwellings? No, I don't. Why in the world are they bringing me to their house? What the heck? Six, if you recall the dwellings, no, I don't. Were you taken to different ones? I was taken to different places that were not dwellings so much as workplaces, but they're not dwellings. So as you can see, I flunked his online test because it's only got 6 questions. It does say these questions are intended for your personal use. For a more thorough examination, please contact us. But I suspect that most people who took this online test would be discouraged from making contact, which is the way a lot of these tests seem to be geared. I'm not knocking his test. I mean, he's an expert in his field and all. But one thing I've noticed about the tests that the experts are giving is they're not really, they seem to be looking for people with, like with Melinda Leslie, she's really only interested in studying like this one aspect. And so her questions are geared so that to find people with this one aspect. And she's cutting out the rest of the pie, which in my opinion, you know, because I mean, maybe it's the anthropology training in me, or whatever, but you just don't do that. You know, you'll miss related cases that way. It's like a crime mystery. I was watching the other night, and they had a body. It was on one side of a county line, and literally just a few feet away there was a body on another county line, and they were related cases, but they were missed and never connected because the pie had been cut out for each county. Kind of like that situation. But I'm not knocking these people. They're certainly a lot farther along than I am. What happened whenever when I disappeared? I can't remember if it was like a month after I disappeared or 2 months, but it was not very, at the time it wasn't very long, and I was wanting to do another video, and this is what happened. I went I went on a training thing. It's this place where you're told it's an island. And we all arrive on like this ferry barge, and I've been to this place more than once, ever since I was young, and there's like this mock town there. And by mock town, you can see examples. Fort Polk has a training area where they have like this mock Baghdad that has been other mock areas, and it's basically this national forest where they have all these roads and everything, and the soldiers go out there and basically role play, and they have those little itty bitty mock houses that would make great, you know, clubhouses for children, you know. And that's what this place is. It's this little mock town where you have like the ramp where the boat pulls up, you know, just a simple little itty bitty boat ramp, nothing fancy. And you come in, and the town is like literally right there. So it isn't even like a real town, because the town would be built back a ways, but the town is like right there. And there's like a road, it goes up, and then there's houses. And for some odd reason, when I go to this town, I tend to ignore this side, which would be my left side of the town, and I tend to focus on the right side. I hate the way the camera's never centered. I tend to focus on the right side. That's where all the houses are. I know there are houses on the left side, these little itty bitty mock houses, and they're like on top of each other, like townhouses, you know. But for some odd reason, I never pay attention to the left side, always the right side, and all the action seems to happen on the right side. And I was one of the first people to arrive on the training exercise, and I was fully into this training exercise. I was like, yeah, let's go, you know. And we had to set up base of operations there, so we did. And I can't really remember everything now, but there's this one house, like you go down house, 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 and at the end, there's what's supposed to be like a mayor's manor almost. And it's set back, and it's got a little yard and fence. And in the hypnotism spell, when you get there, in the spell, you're supposed to perceive it as this big place. And that's the way I did when I was a kid. I always perceived it as this big mansion, and I always wondered who lives there, and I want to go into the house. Well, this time in the scenario, we were the first to arrive, which was unusual for me. And the place was empty, and we had to set up a base of operations. So I chose a house because I wanted to know what was in there finally. And to my disappointment, because it was just a mock house, we could barely move in there. And that's, you know, and I was really disappointed because this beautiful fence I'd always perceived, you know, well, the spell is mostly broken for me these days. So I got to see what the fence really was. And so on the one hand, I'm seeing the beautiful fence. On the other hand, I'm like, this isn't my beautiful house. This isn't my beautiful wife. It was this rundown little chain link fence, and you could tell that the place had seen better days. And I was like, I could probably climb over that. What kind of security is this? We had to pick a secure base of operations. I don't remember why. And then all the people started arriving, and standard procedure for this exercise is when you arrive, you're handed these little cards, which, since marrying my husband, I now know that these cards are basically rules of combat. And you're all handed the cards, and they're basically telling you, you know, whatever. And I was there, and everybody's getting into their little groups, you know, because we tend to form in groups automatically because we're supposed to. It's part of it. And usually it's groups of 4 or 5, just so you know. And we're handed our cards, and I was told that it was some sort of magical situation, kind of like a Harry Potter scenario, but not really. And the rules of combat cards that we were handed had a list of like three or five powers. I can't remember if it was 3 or 5. And we each had one of those powers, and they were going to do a test to see who had what. And I focused on the middle power. I knew that fire was one of them, and I can't remember the other powers because I just didn't care. Because right there, number 2 was telekinesis, the power I have coveted my whole life. And I was like, I'm gonna go for telekinesis. I'm gonna try it this time. I'm gonna get it this time because I know I've got it in me, right? And so I forget the test, but I failed the test. Like, it was this little thing you had to like breathe on it or blow or something. And the handler responsible for me at the time, he was this middle-aged man, kind of a round, square face, you know, graying hair, but the salt and pepper gray. And I can't remember what color his hair would have been. I know he was Caucasian. I mean, he might have been Native American. We do tend to be mistaken for Caucasians, but Caucasian. When I failed the test, I snapped. Because I'm like I'm like 40 something. I don't know how old I am now, and years of getting teased like this, knowing that I can do things because I've done them accidentally in the waking world. And by accidentally, I don't mean, oh, look, I made the spoon bend. I mean accidentally, like being upset and cans literally flying off the shelves at the supermarket and going across the aisle, okay? And little things, reading minds, you know. And so I just snapped. And I remember the power and the feeling of knowing what I'm doing, which I couldn't do now. Side note, you can kick my ass easily. I cannot fight. But the other me, on the other hand, you know, and I felt it. I pivoted perfectly on my left foot. I felt the motion in my hips as I knew what I was doing. And I brought my fist around for a roundhouse punch. He was like standing, so here I am, and he was standing probably here because they tend to like to stand just behind your shoulder and off to the side a little. This is just where they stand. You know, I've seen them do it with other people too. It's kind of like a bodyguard advance, but they're really, you know, minding you. So I knew where I was going with my fist, and I literally roundhouse punched the crap out of him, and he fell on his butt. And, and I wailed into him. I was like, how dare you? You've had me locked all these years, and you could have unlocked me, and then you go and you put me through this again. Because I was so upset that I couldn't do, quote unquote, the superpower, which when you're in the spell, you could be made to think you're doing superpowers, and you're not really. So, but I didn't care. You know, the teasing was over. And I remember he's basically rubbing his face like that, and as he was like, because he could not believe I had just clocked him. Actually, for a moment, I stood there and couldn't believe I just clocked him. And then, so I got removed from the reindeer games, and I had to sit in the side and time out for the rest of the routine, and I wasn't allowed to play with the other reindeer. Now, we could say, oh, she was punished, but the fact of the matter is, I tend to get sick a lot, especially at the wintry time months. I have weak lungs from working in a very poorly run dye factory, and I'm getting walking pneumonia and basically nearly dying without any medical care or help. I mean, literally, I was on the internet begging my so-called friends to help me, and no one cared. And so I've had weak lungs ever since. I actually managed to get to a doctor who would listen, and he suggests that I have asthma. So I have, where did it go? No, I don't have it. Oh, it's in the other room. I have an inhaler. It's orange. And sure enough, I've had a couple of times I went into coughing fits that we normally would go, what the heck's going on? And my inhaler saved the day. So I have been so sick my whole life, which incidentally is the biggest contributor to all this weight gain I've had all my life, because I've got asthma. Would have been nice to have a doctor listen to me when the weight gain started getting serious instead of telling me to lose weight and drink water, huh? So everybody go to alienhunter.org. Take the test. If nothing else, watch his videos. He's got some really, really good informative stuff, especially about implants, which I enjoyed. Yes, I did shoot him an email. If I didn't, it wouldn't be me. And I'm pretty sure he got the email. You know, and if he hasn't, he'll read it past his busy schedule of making videos for Animal Planet or whatever. And he'll go, oh, so I too have received an email from the famous blah, because I'm pretty sure at this point I'm notorious, and that the researchers go off to the corner and say, don't answer emails from her. She's way out there. But there was an event that happened 2 years ago that was an attempted alien pickup with an implant involved, that I thought the information would help his cause. So I sent him an email at like 4 in the morning. So now I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get on my treadmill, and then I'm gonna go to work for the day. Talk to you later.